Hi folks, and welcome back to Old Trusty part number 8. And in part number 7 we identified where we're going to start building from, because we need to rebuild the cells and we don't know how they look like and all that, and you could see all this in part number 7. So we identified at the end that we're going to start building from the bulkhead. And the bulkhead is mounted onto the ladder chassis of the truck with some brackets. And I have the bracket here, and these are the brackets that we removed from the cabin because they were severely corroded, and we have to build new brackets. And this is what we're going to do in this video. We're going to build new brackets. At least by then the bulkhead will be back in its original position. We can fix it, and then we can actually align the cabin so that we can actually fit the sills in once we build them, without having issues that the doors are no longer shutting or there are too many gaps around the doors. So this is what we're going to do. So there's a couple of ways we can build the bracket. We can make it out of one piece and then bend everything on the bench, but the problem might be that the steel is a bit too thick, because I do measure about 3 millimeters of thickness, and that's a lot for my bench. If you have an industrial bench, that will work, but my bench only goes up to 1.5 millimeters. But I think I have a way on doing it. The other way around how you could do it is actually cut it up into sections and then actually weld it. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to build it out of one piece. Now the way I'm going to do this is by creating a template, and I'm using some old wallpaper. You can use whatever you have, cardboard or whatever, and then we're just going to trace around this part. So let's do that. So I place it on one side and I'm just going to trace around it, like so. And then we just roll it, but don't slide it away, just let it roll over. So this is a template we are going to use on the steel plate, and I can use it twice. It just depends where we're going to fold it for the left and the right hand side bracket. So let's give it a try. You can cut this in many different ways. You can use a jigsaw, or you can use a cutting wheel or a plasma cutter, whatever you have. But it's going to take a bit of time because this is pretty thick material. So I'm going to use the jigsaw. But for some areas I might use actually the cutting wheel. It all depends what is the easiest way to do it. So here it is, the rough cut of the bracket, and now I'm going to grind off the edges and make it a bit more smooth. So let me do that first. So that's it, guys, and now we are ready to bend it. But as I said, this is a bit thick to bend, so I need to find a solution for that. So I marked the lines where we need to bend it, and at the inside I'm going to cut a small groove of about 1 millimeter deep. That will allow my bench to bend it, because my bench is not a professional bench and I can only bend steel up to 1.5 millimeters. But maybe you can, and then that's not an issue. So here we go. Yeah, that looks good. Now I do the other side. And once this is bent, I will use the TIG and the filler and I place the filler on the joint, and we weld it all together. So that will be giving it original strength back, and maybe even stronger. So let's go and bend it. And that's number one. But now you can see actually the groove here, and this is what we need to fill up when we start the TIG welding. But that shouldn't be too hard. Now we bend the other side. I just want to have it right on the spot. And you can see how it starts taking shape, huh? Yep, and then we do the last part. Now the last part is going to be a bit tricky because this part is in the way. So I will have to remove some knives from the bench. So probably I will do it over here. So for the last bend, I removed the blades on the bench because it has to be able to flip up like this, and you know, the blades, if it's fully filled, it's in the way. So that's why I have now a smaller blade in, and let's see if I can fit it in and see what happens. Let's see how that comes together. And here we go. That's the bracket. We've bent the bracket, and now we are ready to enforce it on the edges, because remember we did cut a groove in it to be able to bend it on the bench. So now I need to weld that groove back up, and I'm going to do this with a filler rod and then with the TIG, and we're just going to go along and fill that up, and then it will be as good as new. So let me do that. So you want to have your gloves on for this kind of a job. Don't want to burn my fingers. Burn them already enough. One old rusty. And I mean this literally, right? So this looks pretty good. So now we do the other side. Alright guys, and half an hour later, here is the bracket, all completed. I still have to drill the holes in it, but that's about it. It's still a little bit hot, but as you can see, it's the same thing. It's just the opposite, because I have to make one for the left and for the right, so that's why it's a mirror, this one. The weld is quite alright. It turned out to be a good method to cut a groove in it and then weld it up again to bend it, because otherwise I would never have been able to bend this 3mm thick steel. In fact, it's a little bit thicker than the original one. I don't know if you can see it, but let me try to show you that. It's hard to show, but it's a little bit thicker, not that much. But as you can see, it turned out pretty well. So now I'm going to make the next one. So now we'll have to sandblast that little area here because it's pretty rusty and it's not that easy to get to all the little pieces with a steel brush. So we cleaned up the area, so now we can in principle weld the new bracket in. I'm just going to fit once the old bracket back and just to see, and now I'm going to put the new one in and see how that fits. I think it will fit just fine. Just see. So this is the new one. So that's kind of fitting nicely. I still have to extend this piece of metal here. I have it cut off, So that needs to come down here with a slight bend. And then this is the other part that I will have to fix, but that's for later. I don't need to do this one right now. So now first of all, I need to start drilling the holes and foresee the other holes with nuts on to hold down the cabin plate when the plate goes in here, to hold that in place. All right, so that looks pretty good. So that's the next thing we got to do, drill the holes, and then we can tag weld it in.